City Council adjourned meeting to order for Monday, April 17th, 2006. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Roll call, please.
Arbogast.
Here.
Garnos.
Here.
Gisselbeck.
Here.
Heller.
Here.
Johnson is absent. Meisenheimer.
Here.
Solberg. Here. Walder.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
And York.
Here.
Thank you.
First item on the agenda is a motion to approve the minutes of the City Council meeting held April 3rd, 2006.
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Gisselbeck and seconded by Alderman Heller. Is there any corrections or additions to those minutes? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2, consideration of bids for construction of the 2006 sanitary sewer replacement projects. And Dave Peterson will speak to that.
Good evening. On April 7th, we opened bids for the 2006 sanitary sewer replacement project, which is the replacement of sanitary sewer lines and manholes in various locations throughout the city. We had 2 bidders on the project, with the low bidder being AP and Son Construction of Summit, South Dakota, for the total bid amount of $379,253.22. There was only $340,000 budgeted for this project, but there is plenty of money in the sewer fund to cover the extra cost. This went to the Public Works on the 11th and comes to you with the recommendation of the Public Works Committee for approval.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion then to approve that bid?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman York and seconded by Alderman Weisenheimer. Is there any further questions or discussion? Any reason why it was another so many $1,000s, Dave?
Well, we believe that the cost of the asphalt is probably the biggest
see.
factor,
I
because
see.
the asphalt cost went up considerably from what we had estimated for the project.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3 is second reading of ordinance number 06-05, establishing the R2A single-family attached residential district. And Herb, you'll speak to that.
Yes, this is second reading, so a public hearing is required and then council action. I will inform the city council that this item was public noticed in the Watertown Public Opinion on April 7th, 2006. So we've met the statutory requirement for publishing, and I think at this point in time, Mayor, if you want to open the public hearing and see if there's any comment, and then I can come back and answer any questions, that'd be appropriate.
We'll begin with the public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the issue? If so, please stand forward. If not, then we'll close the public hearing and enter into council action. May we have a motion then to approve the ordinance number 06-05?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Wilson. Any further questions or discussion?
Just a couple of additional comments. I put an updated version of the ordinance at your desktop because there were a couple of small corrections that I made on page 4 today, and I just wanted to bring those to your attention. Under the paragraph 21, 2002, height and placement regulations for accessory structures, it was suggested to me by the building official that we change the height. It'll show under the residential column where it says 18 feet. That's a change from 15 feet for garages because as we've been working with house construction over the last couple of years, we've been accommodating homes that have a roof pitch of 4 by 12. In doing that, what that has done is that has also required or created the requirement to elevate the roof by a little bit just to make it match up to the house better. So it was suggested that if we could make that change, that would be appropriate. The other change is on further down below item number 8, where it talks about the 4-foot side yard setback being limited only to accessory structures of up to 200 square feet. We wanted to make sure that side yard setback was limited just to the sheds, and that we didn't end up with garages that ended up in that setback also. So with that, besides the discussion I had last week, those are my comments at this point.
Thank you, Herb. With that being the case, then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4 is the Prouty addition, being with annexation. Rick?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. We have 3 actions with regard to the Prouty addition. An annexation, we'll get into a public hearing for a zoning change which requires an ordinance, and we'll be talking about a plat approval for that property that we will become known to us as Prouty addition. In terms of the annexation, first of all, we dealt with this issue, actually all these issues, first of all, in March 23rd, the Plan Commission meeting held on March 23rd. The petitioner and applicants here are Greg Endries and Ann Endries. Other interested parties include Dr. Brian Prouty, who is an interested party because of a purchase agreement that's been signed for the property. Rodney DeYoung is also an interested party from the perspective of a consultant in terms of providing professional guidance for the annexation, rezoning, and the plat. The petition for annexation is included in your packet, and we've also included a map that we derived from our aerial imagery. So hopefully that helps you orient yourself as to the location for those of you that are listening on TV and wanted a little bit more information as to its location. This property is at 2420 9th Avenue Southeast, which is just on the other side of Willow Creek, right on Highway 212. Currently it's in the county. So the first step is a request for annexation. With regard to annexation, both properties, or this properties adjacent on both sides, east and west of this property, are already annexed into the city. So we do have, we have met the statutory requirement for the properties to be contiguous to the city limits. And other than that, as to annexation, the staff recommendation parallels that of the City Plan Commission, who in their resolution 2006-10 recommended to you, the City Council, that the property be annexed into the city limits with no zoning designation, and also that the condition that the property be platted. We would also suggest that the property, the adjacent right-of-way of Highway 212, also be annexed to its center line, which would be appropriate in terms of process and completing our annexation mapping.
Rick, would it be appropriate for our television audience to see it on the map?
If that is your desire, we certainly can do that. And this is the map that was included in the council or the agenda packet. It's been available on our website as well. This is Highway 212. If you can see the pointer, the hand-shaped pointer traveling left to right now. The property is identified in the blue right there. Another landmark, Mr. Bob Endries and his farming operation is located in this general vicinity. 23rd Street will just be off the map to the left. 26th Street and Applebee's will be just off to the right, if that helps find a vicinity for that property.
Thank you, Rick.
The area in yellow is already in the city, you say? The yellow line property?
Mr. Endries, Mr. and Mrs. Endries' property here, it takes in this general shape here, has been annexed probably a couple years ago. This property, these two properties have been annexed into the city and they've been zoned. We'll talk about the zoning in a little bit, but the new process now is you annex And then the zoning is a special action that requires a public notice and an ordinance change, so that's why we're handling those differently than we have in the past. But hopefully that answers the question there in terms of the adjacent.
Okay. That being said, then we'll ask for the annexation resolution number 0618 for approval. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Alderwoman Walder. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderwoman Arbogast. Is there any further questions? If not, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we'll move on to item number B. Rick? That'd be the zoning designation ordinance number 06-07.
First of all, I guess the preliminary is the reading of 0607, which is an ordinance amending the zoning and district boundaries of our community by establishing zoning designation for, of C2, local commercial district, for certain real property annexed into the city in section 4, 116-52. It's section 4 of township 116 north and range 52 west. And again, it is the property that we will know here in a few moments as the Prouty addition, because we're going to take that plat action, assuming that the council makes that recommendation of approval. With that, Mayor, if you would open the public hearing.
We'll begin with the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to the zoning designation? If so, please step forward. If not, then we'll close the public hearing and go to council action. And the action would be the approval of what would be the zoning designation on that, Rick?
To adopt ordinance 0607 as C2,
C2?
local commercial district. And,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
The adjacent properties are zoned C3. This comes with the recommendation of the Plan Commission for C2 zoning, given the geometric configuration and the square footage of the lot. They thought it was appropriate.
Okay, very good. We have a motion then for that, please?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Meisenheimer. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Any further questions or discussion? If not, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we move to item number 3 under Prouty Edition, which is the plat approval.
I don't know that it's the same petitioners.
Same petitioners?
Yeah,
Every-
Mr. and Greg Endries and Mrs. Ann Endries bring this to you for your approval. That comes with the recommendation of the Plan Commission in their resolution 2006-11. One of the big issues here, and the Plan Commission recognized this along with staff, is that there's always, and as does our comprehensive plan, the issue there being the access. We have a number of residential uses and commercial zoned property along Highway 212. Knowing the state's and quite honestly our community's concern over access management on these arterial streets, we have worked with the applicant. Herb actually has taken the lead on that and really worked a lot of things out in conjunction with Rod DeYoung and Mr. Prouty and the Endries folks there. But the recommendation comes from the Plan Commission that there be a common access point be approved by South Dakota DOT to start eliminate this access off of Highway 212, and we will be working with the adjacent property owners and as to the location of a common access point in an effort to reduce the number of access points on Highway 212. And we feel that is coming together, and would ask for your approval of the plat with that contingency as well.
With that being said, then may we have a motion then to approval of the resolution 0619? So moved by Alderman Giselbeck. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderwoman Walder. Is there any further questions or discussion?
Herb, is there anything else that you wanted to add in terms of where we're at with the access?
In working with the DOT as well as Rod DeYoung from Austin Engineering, we decided two things. One would be that recorded on the face of the plat itself would be an actual annotation on where that common access point would be, basically on the westerly boundary of Mr. Prouty's property. And then also in a drafted letter of assurance, which I drafted today, would talk about the terms of that letter of assurance and the conditions that needed to be met to get that access completed. It'll involve the DOT. In fact, the DOT is tentatively committed to paying for the replacement of access in the public right-of-way from the edge of the property line to Highway 212. So a lot of work has been done there, I think, to facilitate
Yes.
the combination of a common access. It's just a matter of getting the property owners together and the DOT right-of-way people to complete to complete the business. So, before a building permit would be issued, obviously those conditions would have to be taken care of, and we'll monitor that.
Thank you, Herb. If not, then we'll vote. All those in favor of aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5 is the Schmeling Outlot. Number A is the annexation resolution 06-26. Rick?
Thank you, Mayor. This matter is brought to you by your petitioner and applicant Rod Redlin. This deals with the property at 131 North Lake Drive. You've all probably become very well acquainted with the location of Dakota Pump and Control Company Incorporated over the years that it has done business at that location. This is Schmeling Outlot in Government Lot 1 of Section 4, Township 117, Range 52R west. The R indicating it falls within the area previously reserved for the Sisseton-Wahpeton Indian Reservation. First of all, with the annexation, again, the Plan Commission has made its recommendation by resolution, recommending the annexation with no zoning designation until such time that we have a hearing in front of this very board, and we'll do that in a couple of weeks. We'll have first reading this evening. But with that, in terms of annexation, a couple things. It's a 36,000 square foot piece of property, so a fairly significant piece of property, and we'll learn that it's been requested for an R3 or multifamily designation. One of the things that's kind of unique, however, that you should be aware of, we will be creating a nonconformity in terms of the structural placement on that property, as if we were to apply our zoning ordinance, which would require a 25 or a 30-foot setback. That building is really only 14 feet, and that, as indicated on the drawing that we included in your agenda packet of the site plan there. Note that the property is currently in Cottington County's Natural Resource District. The challenges there being that's really intended to be an open district and the preservation of open space. So their challenges there is the land use itself and the fact that it has structures and its parcel size really doesn't comply with their ordinances as they stand today. The opportunities, if annexed, we can apply our city zoning very readily, and there is a septic tank located on the property right now, and as a condition of annexation, we would recommend that sewer be placed there as a condition of the approval. The park dedication issue, as you all are all aware, at the time of master planning or annexation, there comes a requirement from the park board and our ordinance, and the city council that is, for 5% land dedication, or at the park board's recommendation, which they have done in this instance. They have helped or solicited the assistance from Russ Ronke with the Director of Equalization's office to a set of value and place 5% against that value. So Mr. Redlin has already committed to paying that amount, which amounts to $1,404, and that letter has been included in your agenda packet as well. Other than that, as to the annexation, again, the recommendation from the Plan Commission in their resolution 2006-15 is for annexation into the city limits with no zoning designation until such time that the governing body has had an opportunity to consider that.
Okay, thank you, Rick. May we have a motion then for the annexation?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Wilson. Any further questions or discussion?
Mayor, if I might, I would add that at the meeting, Mr. Redlin wanted to talk about the time frame in which the sanitary sewer would have to be installed. You know, it depends on how he's able to market the property. Right now it is not being occupied, and it was suggested, and the Plan Commission recommended this as well, that a window of 2 to 3 years to install that sewer, or at such time as the property is either transferred or occupied, would be the appropriate time then to require the sanitary sewer service be installed. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick, and we'll go on to item number B under Schmeling Outlot.
This is merely the first reading for ordinance 0608, an ordinance amending our zoning district boundaries by establishing the zoning designation of R3 multifamily residential district for that property of which we just spoke, the Schmaling Outlot. This comes to you with a recommendation from the Plan Commission for adoption of such an ordinance to accept that along with the annexation as an R3. And we can talk a little bit further about that in 2 weeks at the public hearing, unless there are questions now.
I guess not then. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6 is the election of city representatives to the Rail Authority Board of Commissioners, and that's resolution number 06-24. Tracy?
Thank you, Mayor. If the council adopts this resolution, you will elect, or in effect re-elect, Stanton Fox and myself as the city's representatives, two representatives to the Watertown-Cottington County Regional Rail Authority. That Board of Commissioners is comprised of 2 city representatives, 2 representatives from the county, appointed by the county commissioners, and then a 5th member that is selected by those first 4 representatives. This is something that is redone each year, and Stanton and I have served on that board since the inception of the Rail Authority. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, I would ask for your approval.
May we have a motion then to approve Stan and Tracy for our representatives on the rail board? So moved by Alderman Solberg and seconded
second
by
that.
Alderwoman Arbogast. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried. Congratulations. Good job. Item number 7 is approval of the tax credit application by the South Dakota Housing Authority for Habitat for Humanity, the project at a location to be determined in Becky Orthouse.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Becky.
I am the executive director at Habitat for Humanity, and Habitat for Humanity has applied for a South Dakota Housing Development Loan to build a single-family house this summer. The South Dakota tax credit application requires approval from the city council, and the location is to be determined. So I'm basically asking for your approval to go forth on and applying for this loan.
Okay, I'm sure.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Alderwoman York. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Solberg. Any further questions or discussions? If not, then all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is consideration of agreement with the South Dakota Department of Transportation for funding a project to extend First Avenue North. Dave?
Good evening. You should have in your packet the agreement prepared by South Dakota DOT for the use of the city's urban systems funds for this project. This is a standard type of agreement that we have signed for past DOT projects, and this comes to you with the recommendation from the Public Works Committee for approval.
May we have a motion for that consideration of the agreement? So moved by Alderman Heller. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Giselbeck. Any further questions or discussion? If not, then all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Dave. Item number 9 is the library project. Number A, authorize the mayor to approve work changes up to $5,000, and B, the approval of a contract with Maxim Technologies for quality control testing. And Mike?
Basically, the 5,000, or the first item there is to allow the mayor, if we have, what's that nasty word?
Overruns.
Overruns, yeah. To allow the work to progress on that. Item B on there is quality control testing. This is where the architect may request testing of the materials that the contractor has put in. And we had 3 people or 3 firms that proposed this, and the staff's recommendation is that we go with Maxim.
Well, first of all, we'll deal with the authorization for the mayor to approve the work changes up to $5,000. Is there a motion for that, please?
So move.
So moved by Alderwoman Walter. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Wilson. Any questions or discussion? Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on. There. Some days are tougher than others. Okay, on to item number B is the approval of the contract with Maxim Technologies for quality control testing. May we have a motion, please? So moved by Alderman Meisenheimer. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solberg. Is there any questions or discussions in regards to that? If not, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mike. Agenda item number 10 is approval of agreement with Mark Hurd for additional contours and ortho photos for area around Lake Pelican. And Dave?
The city has been approached by FEMA to, as far as additional areas for mapping within Cottington County. One of the areas that has been suggested for mapping is the area around Lake Pelican. Right now, in the last study, as far as the Big Sioux, they established an elevation for Lake Pelican, but they didn't actually map the boundaries based upon that elevation. When we had the city flown in 2005, we had it flown. That area was flown all the way that covered all of the Lake Pelican, but we didn't obtain all of the aerial photography at that time, and we didn't obtain additional contours which would be needed for mapping the flood elevation around Lake Pelican. We contacted Mark Hurd, and based upon the area that they've flown, they can provide the additional aerial photography, the photos, and the additional contours, and their cost for doing that is $21,800. This would act as part of a city match for getting these areas mapped under FEMA, from FEMA, and it was recommendation of the Public Works Committee that we do this. We have money within our GIS budget to get this done, and we're asking for your permission to contract with Mark Hurd to have it done.
May we have a motion then to approve the contract with Mark Hurd?
Motion.
Motion by Alderman Wilson. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Any further questions or discussion?
Yeah, David, I know you talked to this at the Public Works Committee meeting, but I think the logical question for the public is, why does the city want or need mapping of Lake Pelican?
Well, the mapping, I mean, is actually for the residents, so that they know whether they're in the floodplain or not. I mean, they've already established an elevation. You know.
I know, but most of Lake Pelican is not within the city limits. That's what I'm getting at.
I think I can answer the question maybe that you're driving to, Mr. Heller, and that is the fact that a good portion of Lake Pelican actually falls in that 1 mile platting jurisdiction that's on the outside of the city limits. So we certainly have some authority in the our future destiny as a city, because we've got a comprehensive land use plan as well as a major street plan. So the idea of mapping the entire lake because of the flood elevation simply goes to looking ahead and trying to take care of what will be a larger expense if we have to come back and do it again in the future.
I think that's a great explanation, and I thank you for that. And I'm sure that's going to save a lot of buzz around town. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 11 is report on the unpaid streets within the city limits. Dave?
When we were going through the special assessment project last fall, the question came up as far as the number of gravel streets that still exist in the city of Watertown. This map, the areas in blue are the areas where we still have gravel streets. You'll notice that the biggest share of them are probably on the perimeter of the city, on the edge of the city, where development hasn't completely taken place. The amount of streets shown on this amount to 8.6 miles of streets. I guess what we're proposing to do is to take this back to the Public Works Committee and discuss whether we feel that there is a need to get a program to assist with the cost of paving these streets in the future, or whether we continue as we have been, with just going with those that ask to have the streets paved and are willing to pay the special assessment. There are 2 or 3 streets on there that are either, well, one of them has, out at the lake, has already petitioned for being paved, and it's going to be paved. There's 2 other streets on there that I'm aware of that the people are looking at to get them paved. So I think we're seeing some action as far as getting some of these done, but we need to have an additional discussion as far as whether we want to help fund any of these.
I see the real long one I believe that's Gilbert Road, isn't it? What used to be referred to as Gilbert Road, the real long one, Dave? Yeah, yes. Fish Road, Gilbert Road, if you were younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really a road that doesn't go to any residents.
No, it doesn't.
It really doesn't have a purpose as far as being paved. I guess we just brought this to you for your knowledge, and then we'll take it back to the Public Works if there's any questions.
Any questions for Dave? If not, then thank you, Dave. Moving on to item number 12 is to authorize payment to Sharp Chevrolet for purchase of a used pickup for Building Inspection Department in the amount of $14,999. And Rick?
Thank you, Mayor. We have budgeted in our 2006 capital improvements plan for the Planning and Zoning Department a used vehicle, which Ken has done a marvelous job of dealing on. We saw this advertised in the Watertown Public Opinion, and we got there a day late and $1 short, and we actually found it again at Sharp Chevrolet, and we're able to visit with them and negotiate a purchase price of $14,999. $15,000 for a purchase equipment like this, of course, would have required that we solicit bids. But we feel that we have a very good opportunity here. The vehicle is parked outside City Hall right now. It's a local dealer that we are able to acquire this piece of equipment from. I guess we're just looking for your approval to purchase the vehicle. We have worked with the finance office and through the mayor's office so far and looking to finalize the deal here. They have requested, however, that special provisions be made. They couldn't go with this price and leave the vehicle on their lot until our normal payment process caught up with them, so they are requesting a special payment in this regard.
And what year was that?
It's a 2001 Chevrolet.
Yeah, for $15,000.
Yeah, it's a Chevrolet Suburban V8 utility. It's a K1 1500 four-wheel drive vehicle, which is what we were really after in terms of getting to our construction sites.
Thank
It's in
you.
really great shape too. It's really nice. It's a dark blue. It's a something that the community. Well, yeah. No, the community ought to be very proud to own that vehicle and say we do, and that's what we utilize to do our business. Yes, it's a very nice vehicle.
Thank you, Rick. May I have a motion then, please?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderwoman Arbogast. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Garnos. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Mayor, and just a thanks to Ken and actually Sharp Chevrolet for making this happen for us, quite honestly.
Very good. Yep, thank you very much. Item number 13 is approval of city participation in FEMA flood insurance update for Roby Creek in the amount of $14,441. Herb?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Again, this is really probably a follow-up to the discussion that Mr. Peterson had with you a moment ago, but the city was approached by Michelle Saxon, who is the South Dakota Flood Insurance Coordinator, about what the city's priorities might be for a continued flood insurance study effort that FEMA was conducting for Cottington County. The state of South Dakota actually designated Cottington County as their top priority for continued FEMA flood mapping. So what staff did was identified Lake Compesca, since we only had an elevation and we didn't actually have an actual contour, and we're, as we visit with the public and a portion of Lake Pelican also, we're able to give them an approximate idea of whether they might or might not be in the 100-year flood zone, but there's really no way of telling without the detailed study that has to take place courtesy of FEMA and the Corps of Engineers. Also identified Roby Creek and Willow Creek as priorities on that list. Michelle Saxman came back and informed us that Lake Compesca, Lake Pelican, and Lower Roby Creek, which is below 3rd Avenue to the confluence of the Big Sioux River, and Willow Creek had been funded by the feds, but not Upper Roby Creek, because Roby Creek above 3rd Avenue north to 14th Street had been mapped in detail previously in 1989, but has not been remapped since any of the flood control improvements that you see up in the north part of town are in place now. So we asked the question, what would it cost to have the rest of that map? Because if you recall, as we've had some previous budget discussions over, I believe, the last 3 years, we've talked every year about the idea of updating the Roby Creek flood insurance study, but it's fallen off the list because of some other more important priorities. FEMA came back to us and told us that for an additional $14,441, we could get that entire effort done. And to us, as staff, that just seemed like a bargain, given that we had been talking in the neighborhood of $60,000 to $80,000 to get that entire effort done. So we discussed the issue with the Public Works Committee at the April 11th meeting. This comes with their recommendation for approval. Dave Peterson and I have since gone back and checked our various funding lines in the capital improvement plan, and have figured out that we do have sufficient money in the drainage master planning budget line to in fact cover that amount. So with that, I'd ask for the council's approval to authorize us to complete Upper Roby Creek in terms of getting the remapping effort done for a cost of $14,441.
May I have a motion then for that effect,
I
please?
enthusiastically make that motion.
So, motion by Alderwoman York and seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any further questions or discussion?
Just a comment. The people that live in that area will thank you very much for that. We had a lot of participation from them that night, looking at the map to see, and I think everybody was in agreement that what used to be in a floodplain up there in the Roby Creek area probably isn't anymore because of the corrections that have been made. But they need to get themselves taken out of that by proof of the FEMA map. So we appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to item number 14 is to declare surplus property and authorize sale at public auction. And I guess it's going to be on May 13th at the Street Department yard.
The auction will be on Saturday, May 13th.
Okay.
There are a couple of additional items. I put a sheet on your desk before the meeting tonight to add to the list. There's about a half a dozen items from the library that they asked us to add. And then there were several items as well that found homes and other departments that were deleting. So you'll see those at the bottom of that single sheet of paper that we put on your desk. So if you approve this, those are the, you'll be approving it with those changes.
So could we have a motion to authorize the list here as the surplus property and authorize sale at public auction?
Motion.
Motion by Alderman Wilson. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Heller. Any further questions or discussion? If not, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 15 is the approval of an application for a gas fitter license from Jason Rorick for $25 fee. Can I have a motion? So moved by Alderman Giselbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Meisenheimer. Any questions or discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 16 is the open, and I guess in regards to the open, I'd like to appoint a committee to go back and try to iron out some of the differences with the sign ordinance. And I'd like to appoint Dennis Solberg, Brad Johnson, Al Meisenheimer, and Tuffy Giselbeck, and to report back to us at our first meeting in May. And so with that being the case, is there any other items on the open? If not, then we'll move to old business. And beginning with number A is the amendment to the moratorium on the receipt of the sign permit applications in Stanton.
Thank you, Mayor. As you recall, at our last meeting, you directed me to prepare the resolution that's before you, which, if approved, is going to amend the moratorium to allow the Other Place Cafe to erect the sign they've apparently paid for, but given the terms of the moratorium, without an amendment to it, a sign permit can't be issued. I believe the application they've submitted includes site detail, which I recall the council requesting at their last meeting, so you can know exactly how the property is going to look if you in fact grant this amendment to the moratorium. But as to those details, I defer to the applicant or Ken, because I've seen some preliminary stuff, I think, but as to the actual stuff that's included in the permit, I defer to either one of those folks to let the council know exactly how to look if you approve this resolution.
Ken?
Oh, do you? Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. You had those in PDF, didn't you? Great. There's those lights again. As you can see in the upper right-hand corner, well, let's start with the lower right-hand corner. That's the existing as it sits now. You have the existing sign here, which is the cafe sign, which is approximately 40 feet tall. They have a sign on the building here, and a sign here where this is to the west and this would be to the south. Then also over here, which you can't quite see, is this other place sign here that's on the front. Within the guidelines of before the moratorium went into effect, they would be able to add this sign up here as it is displayed without any problems. Okay, now if you're doing any of the conditions of the new moratorium, they would be limited to a maximum height of 25 feet. They are requesting, of course, 35 feet. This sign would be limited to 83 feet. They are requesting 120 feet. Under the proposed moratorium, they would not be able to keep this sign and this sign in place. You're only allowed with the frontage of an I district and the frontage they have of 125 feet. They would only allow for one either pole sign or monument sign, which this qualifies as a monument or ground sign, and this would qualify as a pole sign. Those are the basic limitations and questions you have. So if you need any clarification, please ask.
The hardship came into play because of the sign already being built and paid for, right?
That's correct.
And then, of course, the moratorium was adopted, and then
On January 1st, yeah,
January
before the
1st,
sign
so
got
then
erected.
they became in sort of a limbo state. Is that correct, Ken?
That's correct.
Okay. Does the council have any questions for Ken in regards to this?
Not so much for Ken, but probably for Bill, or whoever is. If I'm trying to remember back now to last meeting, you said you didn't make the sign, right? Service Sign didn't make the sign?
Correct.
Who made the sign? Persona. Is it typical for a sign company like Persona to go ahead with an order like that without having a permit in hand?
It depends on, I'm sorry, excuse me. It depends on who's doing the install. Sometimes
Would it be a yes or
Persona
no,
will-
would it be a yes or no answer typically?
They do it both ways. They do it
Majority
both
being
ways.
majority being which way? Permit in hand?
Permit, that's always the safest.
Okay. When was that sign ordered?
I believe the 28th of December is when they put the down payment down on her.
Was that before the moratorium?
Correct.
So if we'd gotten a permit issued then, we wouldn't have this dilemma, would we?
If we got the permit issued, then we could have went up to 1,050 square feet.
That's right,
and
but
we're
we
asking
didn't,
for
we didn't
120.
do, we didn't do that, did we?
That's correct.
So it really wasn't the fault of the situation that caused this dilemma, did it?
I didn't come in to play as far as trying to get a permit until after the
No,
moratorium.
my point is, I'm just trying to say where in lie the problem. The problem didn't exist if everything had done the way it normally would have been done, right? And that's okay. You don't need to
It's-
answer that.
it-
Just
If
trying
you're
to
going
get
back, if you're going back to if the permit was issued before the sign was built, yes, you're correct. In this case, it wasn't done that way. The sign was built, and then the installer was hired, and then when I tried to get a permit, the moratorium was in place. That's all I need. Okay. Any other questions?
No matter how you look at it, the top one, what we're going to be seeing if the new sign is put up, certainly looks a lot better than the bottom one with the very tall cafe sign. The top one looks much more professional and much more in line with what we want the signage in Watertown to look like, in my opinion.
That'd be a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion, yes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the sign permit as it was originally applied for. And that's seconded by Alderman York and seconded by Alderman Giselbeck. Any further questions or discussion?
Just a comment. I honestly don't think that the business owners should take the hit on this, and so I'm probably going to vote for it. But I'm really upset because I think what happened, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, is they knew that the moratorium was coming, and they ran right out, and whoever did it, Service Sign or Persona or the business owner or whoever, and had this sign ordered on 2 days before the moratorium went into effect. And I think that's unfortunate. I don't agree with that kind of signage that they're proposing to put up, but I don't want to see the business owners taking a hit on it either, so.
I think we need a clarification here, though, because the moratorium didn't in fact go into effect until January 17th. That's when the council approved the moratorium.
They knew that the moratorium was being considered, though.
Since we have a motion first and a second, and all those in favor say aye. Point of order. Oh, I'm sorry, Jody, okay.
No problem. I would just like to make sure that Mr. Heller understands that this did not just get done to beat a moratorium or anything. Jody from Persona is not here tonight, but I did visit with her again last week, which I did several times throughout the last month. And she had assured me that we were going to be able to be okay under both the old ordinance and the new one that was being in place. But I did bring the things that were here, that when we started looking at this sign, this one says January 23rd. That's when we started, or December 23rd of 05 is when we approved it. But here is actually my original ones that Jody brought me from Persona, and those are dated September 28th of 05. So again, this was in play after we bought the other place, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows that absolutely I understood that there was a new sign ordinance, and Jody from Persona understood there was a new sign ordinance, and we really did feel we were under okay from both the old ordinance and the new one.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's your fault at all.
Okay.
I appreciate
Well,
that.
like
Thank
I said, I want to make sure I don't even feel like Persona. I felt they did check and things out. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jody. We'll resume then the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You can build your sign. I'm sorry, install your sign. Okay, moving on to other old business. Stan, you have some issues for us to clean up?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Back in 2000, some of you recall the city entered into an option to purchase some land with the Hanton family for the industrial park that now bears their name. The title company recently brought to my attention that when describing the land that the Hantons gave the city to purchase, in fact included a little too much land, in fact some land the Hantons didn't even own, and they've discovered that when they were doing some title work. So the title company's prepared a document, and I would request your authority to sign the document. It's entitled a partial release of notice of real estate agreement, just to clear this up. It was just simply an oversight.
Can we have a motion to that effect, please?
Yeah.
Motion by Alderman Giselbeck. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderwoman Walder. Is there any further questions or discussion? If not, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Stan, you have another one, the number 2, authorized to sign release of temporary easements. Is that the same? We just did that then? or-
No, this
is
is
another
something
one.
different, but we're clearing clouds on title all over. But back in 1994, the city acquired some temporary construction easements for a project. It's described as being on 14th Avenue North from Highway 81 to 650 feet west of 4th Street West. For whatever reason, unlike most temporary construction easements, these actually got recorded in the Register of Deeds and became part of a chain of title. And I confess, there's no one with a long enough institutional memory to know why that would have happened, but it did. But the project's obviously been completed, and we don't need temporary construction easements anymore. So to clear the title, the mayor needs to be authorized to sign 4 resolutions abandoning these temporary construction easements, and I'd recommend you make a motion giving him that authority.
So moved by Alderman Heller. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderwoman Arbogast. Any further questions? If not, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Stanton. Next, we move on to new business. Is there any new business to come before the council? If not, then are there any liaison member reports?
Safety Committee, 7 o'clock in the morning.
I hear you're chairing that, Gordy?
I guess.
Okay,
That's correct.
that's correct. Okay.
I am if Nancy isn't going to be in town.
Thank you.
We will need to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters, litigation, and contractual matters. When we come out of executive session, we'll be taking no action will be required. So we'll need to have a motion to go into executive session. So moved by Alderwoman Arbogast. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solberg. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We will go into an executive session.